We are looking at use context today, the context API. So let's discuss why we even need this. Why do we need context API? Why do we need to use context in ReactJS, in our React application? All right. So let's give an instance. In one of our classes, we looked at the routing in ReactJS, where we did something like this. We installed router from React Router DOM. Then I explained to us that you wrap your whole application or whatever you want to use routing, you wrap it with this router like this. Then we did something like this. Then how we can still remember these things? Routes.
Yes.
Okay. Then inside these routes, what do we put here? We put route. Alright. Then let's get some elements. So where is the noise coming from? Okay. So you have this routes. Then inside it you have a path. Then element. This is you can say hi. So let's see if this is working. Why is this throwing back an error? Okay, we didn't close this. Okay. Out is not defined. Oh. Okay. So we look at things like this then. Then let's get some other routes. I'll just copy this. In fact, let's make this a self-closing tag like this. Let's get 3 of them. About welcome. About welcome us. I can also use this welcome. This one. We have this slash welcome to. Good. Let's add our navigation bar. So we can say then say link, you bring in your link to cancel. Now go to the landing page. About I just say welcome. So someone wants to join the class. So when we go to this slash, it's going to load the content of this. When you go to this, close the content of this. When you go to this, close the content of this. This is more like revision of what we've done. But the reason I'm going to do all of this is so that you understand the reason you need the context API. We won't just use it for using sake. So you understand why do I really need this thing? Let's just put a little separator. Okay. But instead of just putting our divs here, these divs here, let's get components for them. I think we already have some components we used in our previous classes. So let's make use of some of them. I'll use the ones in the pages folder. I think I saw about here. Contact, okay. Then landing. I think we have about, we have contact, we have landing page. So let's make use of those three. We have this landing page. So then we have a contact page also. So on this contact page, I'll just delete these ones. This. Contacts as save. Go to about. Delete all of this. This is about us page. Delete these ones. Okay. Go back to ReactJS now. Instead of using this div, bring in the landing page component. Instead of using this, bring in the about component. Oops. Instead of using this, let's change this to contacts. So if someone wants to join. You're welcome. So if you don't understand anything on the screen, let me know before we proceed.
I think I logged in with yours Gmail.
You said?
This is Olatu.
Hello?
Did you hear me?
I can hear you now.
I actually logged in with someone else's email.
Okay.
This is Olatu. I don't know whether I should log out or not.
No, you can stay.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Now, do you have any? If you don't understand anything on the screen, I think we've done all of this. Everything we've done tonight so far, we've done all of this in the past, right? But then I think we need all of this to understand what we explained tonight. That's why I'm writing these codes, right? Do you have anything on the screen that you don't understand?
Yeah, from my end, I'm good. This is about routing, so
Okay, good.
we covered it. It was explicit.
All right. Thank you, sir. Now, for tonight's class, we want to look at why we need to use the context API. Now, imagine a scenario. Let's start with this about page. Let's say I have a variable here or a state here inside this about page. Let's say it is age. Let's say we start with this. Right. So of course, when I go to the about page, it will display I am 10 years old. Let's go on. Oh, I didn't save something here. Okay. I am 10 years old. That's fine. But let's now say on our own page, we have a button there. Now when we click on that button, we will increase the value of that age from 10 to 11, or click on it again from 11 to 12. So let's say on our landing page, there's a button here like this. Increase on click. When I click on this button, I want to increase the age here. Who can tell us what to do based on what we've done so far?
You can make use of pop as well too.
Exactly. You can make use of props. Thank you, sir. You can make use of props. But something is stopping us from using props. And that thing is that this about page is not a child of this landing page. That is, this about page is not within this landing page. So even if I want to send prop from landing to about, or from about to landing, I can't send it like that, right? I can. Let's assume I have the component, the about component here like this. It will be easy for me to send props from here to there. But because this is not a parent of this, and this is not also a parent of this, that will not be possible. So that brings us to something we call state lifting. I've also explained state lifting in one of our previous classes. State lifting is, I think when I wanted to explain props, I talked about state lifting. When two components are using or needs to share values, two components, when they need to share values, and they are not, one is not a child of the other, right? You now take the states to their common parents, to the common denominator, to the parent of both of them. Now, this about is not a parent to this, to the landing page, and the landing page is not a parent to the about page. So in that case, there is no way for them to share data. So what we do in that case is that we now take the states to their common parents, right? So the common parent here is the app.js. App.js is a parent to this, and it's also a parent to this. Any question? When you want to pass a prop, you pass a prop from a parent to a child. Let's say the about page is here. And I have a state here like this, const var set var. I can pass my props down here. So this is a parent component sending a value. This is a parent component landing, sending a value to its child. But in our own case, we don't have such scenario. We don't have. The parent, the about and the landing page, they are not descendants of each other. Right. So what we do in that case is that we take it to their common parent. Their common parent here is the app.js. So we lift these states away from this. We take the states out of this place. Then we take it to their common parent, which is this. So their parent now, or their common parent, can now send the value here down as props. That is, this age can be sent to this place as prop. Age. So that we receive it here as prop. So this will still work. Fine. Then in that case also, this set age can be sent to the landing page also as prop. I can say increase age, because no, I don't like sending this down as prop. Instead, we create a function here. I'll call it increase age. Please make it, I think it's going to be a good practice also, that you don't send this down as prop. So set age. you can now say age plus 1. I'll better still, okay, don't worry, let's leave it like this. Set age plus, that is, add 1 to the initial value of age, then set it. So you can now send this increased age down as prop. So let's send the increased age as prop. Increase age. Any questions so far? We are sending this function increase age down to this thing as prop so that we can now receive it in our landing page. And the structure is here. Then on click, increase age. Like I say, increase age. Or let's say, let's just call it grow order. Grow order like this. This state is not defined after JS. Okay. So my landing page now, let's first check the final value of age is 10. So when I go to the landing page and I click on this 3 times 1 to 3, so this should be 13 now. Good. 13 years old. I think everything is still fine. If there's anything you don't understand, please let me know. Any questions so far? How we move forward?
Yes.
Okay, let's move on. But let's look at a problem called props drilling. Why you won't need or why you won't always use props to solve all your problems. Why props cannot solve all your problems. This is it. Imagine you have another component in this about page. So let's get another component in our pages. What should I call it? I can call it maybe display. Let's call it maybe display info or something. Display info. This display info, I'll bring it to the about and put it here. So as you can see, this display info, oh, it's not important. Let's do it again. Oh, I didn't export it. Okay. Now this display info here, we are calling it inside the child. So display info is a child of the about component. Let's now assume that this I am age years old is inside the display info component, not directly inside the about component. So I'll take this out of this place. And I'll bring it to this. Did I cut it? I think I just deleted. Let's cut. Then display it here. So that's what we are doing. We want to display the age in this display info component. And we want to put a button to increase this age. That button is in our landing page components here. There is a landing page. We are not using contact. Let's look at that. Okay. So here's our landing page component. Here is the display info component. So this increases the value of the age while this displays the age. Now, since this display info is not a direct child of this landing, again, you can't use props directly. Like you need to bring, just like we've done before, we need to bring the value to our app.js. App.js can now send it to landing and about. App.js cannot send it directly to the display info. And that's because the display info component is not a direct child to app.js. I come again. Display info component is not a direct child of app.js. This about is the direct child of app.js. So app.js can send it to about component. About component can now receive the H, then send it to the display info component. Do you understand? This can now receive it here. Any questions so far? Now, what that means is that the only reason this about component is receiving this H is so that it can pass it to this display info, not because it needs it directly. In fact, it does not need the H itself. This about component is not making use of the H in its own component. But because this H needs to get to the display info component, it must be sent down to this about component so that about component can send it to the display info component. Do we see the part? Do we see the parts? Landing app.js sends it to the about page. About page receives it, sends it to the display info component. So that means about page itself is not using the H prop. But because it must send it to the display info component, then it must receive it, then send it down. Now, you may think this is not a problem, or this may not be like a big deal. But imagine another scenario where we are not going to write that anyway, but I will just explain. Imagine this display info component is not also using this H, but because it must get to its own child, imagine this as a child and this line is not directly inside this display info component. That means we need to send it from app.js to about, from about to display info, from display info to the child of display info. And that means about page is not using it, display info is not using it, but both of them must receive this H because it must get to one child that is located deep inside a component. Do we get the problem? If you are lost, say I'm lost.
Yeah.
Please repeat what you said just now, please.
Okay. Let's do something together. Let me go for you. Pause it. I will use. Now imagine this scenario. You have a value. Let's first get two components. Let's call it A and B. A. B. But this A and B, both of them, let's say they are directly inside app. Let's say we have our app component. Inside this app, we have A and we have B. Right. Now, A has two children. I'm coming. A, this component A, it has two children. Let's call it A1 and A2. Now, let's say a value is inside A1, this A1 component. And I also need that same value in A2. There's a value in A1. Let's say name. Name Taye is inside this A1. But I also want to display that same value in A2. A1 and A2 are not, the relationship between A1 and A2 is not parent to child relationship. It is sister to sister relationship, right? Are we following? A has both A1 and A2. The relationship between A1 and A2 is not parent to child. The parent to child relationship is between A and A1 or A and A2. That's the parent to child relationship. But A1 and A2, they only have sister to sister relationship. Do we get it?
Yes.
Okay. So if there's a value inside A1 and I want to display that value inside A2, I can't do that directly because the relationship between them is not parent to child relationship. Instead, I need to take that value from A1 now and lift it up to A. And the reason I'm lifting it up to A is because A now can pass it to A1 and at the same time it can pass it to A2. You can only pass props from a parent to a child. Right. So if I lift the value from A1 and I put it inside A can send it to A1. A can also send it to A2. That way, the value can now be sent to both A1 and A2. Any question? Can we move forward?
I understand it now, yes.
Okay, let's proceed. But let's assume I have a value in A1 and I also want to display that same value in B. Now, A1 and B, the relationship between them is not parent to child, so I can't send the values directly. Right? What I need to do is that I need to take that value from this to A1. From A1 to A. But even if it's inside A can still not send it to B because the relationship between A and B is sister to sister relationship, right? I need to take it to the parent of them, which is app. App can now send it to A. App can also send it to B. A can now send it to A1. Do you get it now?
Yes, yes.
In this pattern, that means this A is not using the value. A is only getting the value because it must get to A1, not because A needs it. A does not need it. But because app cannot send it directly to A1, app needs to first send it to A, then A can send it to A1. App can also send it to B. Remember I said we only need the value between inside A1 and B. But for that it must be in app so that app can send it to A, and app can also send it to B. Then A can now send it to A1. So with that now, A is receiving the value not because it needs it, but because it must get to A1. Any question to that point? Okay.
I understand.
All right. Thank you. Now this is called prop drilling, right? App sending it to A, but A does not need it. A needs to send it to A1. Now just imagine this scenario that A1 also has a child, and that child needs it. Imagine you don't even need the value directly in. Imagine I just have A11 and then A12. This A11 and A12, imagine they are children of A1, and I need the value in A11 and B. So that means since I need the value in A11 and B, the value must still be inside our app. So that app can send it to B, app can also send it to A can send it to A1, A1 can send it to A11. So with that now, A and A1 are not even using the values directly. They are only receiving it because it must get to this A11. This is props drilling. This is a problem. And the solution to that is what we want to look at tonight. Use context, the context API in ReactJS. Now, hope we can move forward. So, this H, because we want to find a way to pass it directly to this display component without first passing it to the about component, because about component does not even need it, right? So let's solve that. For now, I'll just remove this. We'll bring it back later. For now, let's just remove all of this. So what we are going to do is this. We'll bring in something called, you can call it H context or anything, since we want to use it to undo H. This create context is inside React. Create context. This creates a context for us. You can. This is H context. Oh, let's start it with capital letter because of the way we use it later. We are creating a variable called H context. You can call it anything. But let it be descriptive. Let it explain what you want to use it to hold. Right? Age context equals to create context, and you call on this function. Let's move on. So you now wrap those pages that needs to make use of that context, that value, right? We are going to find a way as time goes on. This is what we are going to do. We find a way to take this value here, and put it inside this place as time goes on. We still find a way to take this age and hook it up with this age context. So those components that want to make use of that value can needs to be wrapped with this age context. So what you can do is this. I want to use this in my landing page. I want to use it in my about page. So I can wrap it with this age context dot provider. So you wrap your routes like this to this. Okay. Age context dot provider. What this provider is going to do is that whatever you put, remember I said as time goes on, we'll find a way to take this value and place it inside this place, right? Whatever is inside this age context, this provider will provide it to all of these components, and not just the components themselves, even to their children and their generation, I mean their grandchildren. If there's any component inside this, it will still be available there. If there's another component inside that component again, it will still be available there. So what this provider is going to do is that whatever you have there, it will provide whatever is inside this age and make them available inside all of these things and their generations, the children, their grandchildren. Okay, so
Am I am I the only one? My is I see your screen just freeze. And I can't see the progress of that screen.
oh,
Maybe it's my network.
so can you see age content?
Likely to be your network. Or I can see it.
Yeah, I can see it. Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's my network.
All right.
That's been that display info since. Now it's not into age context or provider now.
Okay. Sorry.
And then maybe I should log out and log in again.
Okay, you can do that. Since the class is also recorded, you can go to the recordings too.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Now, we have this provider that is providing all of this. Now, let's say there's a component here. Let's say there's any component here, like this. This component will not be able to use these values inside it because it's not inside this place. Do you get it? So, but I can also provide, I can wrap this. I can put my provider here. I'm just trying to tell us that if you want all your components to make use of it, you can wrap it. In fact, as time goes on, we'll still see how we can do it. You can put it in your index.js if you want to. Just like this. Remember when we looked at browser routing, I explained that whatever you wrap with your browser router, that means you can route there, you can do routing there. In the same way also, whatever you wrap with this age context provider, that means it is provided with whatever is inside your age context. It's provided with whatever we have there. So it's the same logic also. Let's say there's a component, this nav component now. Let's say let's say this is a component. This nav component, we don't have access to things here, except we take this and we put it here like this. So that means this nav component can also make use of it, right? So let's move on. So this here, take something we call value. This value, I can put an object. I'll just put my name for a start. So what we are doing here is that we are passing this value, whatever you put here, to this age context. So all the children or everything here, we have access to this value, right? So we can go to any of those components and make use of it. So if I want to display this name in any component, whether the landing, whether the about, whether this display info, let's go to display info component and make use of it. All I need to do is this. I'll come here and say const. Oh, there's something we need to do. You export this. You export it. We need this elsewhere. Export it. So let's come there. Const my context, or you can say age context, or you can call it any name. You can also call it age equals to use context. Use context. In your application, you may have many contexts. So you need to specify the context you want to use. I want to make use of the age context. Do you understand? I want to make use of the age context. So once I bring this in, everything inside this value, everything here, automatically will be this, will be available here. But what do I want to pull out? I just want to pull out this name property. In fact, don't let me call this age. Let me just call it CTX for a start. So everything here inside this, everything you provided, everything provided in this age context will be available as this CTX. And you know this is an object, right? So this object, this value that we are providing here will be available inside this place. I can now say my name is ctx.name, like this. So my name is Taye here. If this is, if I change this to Kenny, someone will still find a way to change this and make it dynamic. Okay. My name is Kenny. So I'm currently on the about part, right? Any questions so far? Of course, you can distort short things. So this will just be name. If you have any question, please kindly ask. Someone is saying I should let him in. Oh. Okay. Can we move forward? Okay. Now, we've provided these values, but this is not where we are going to. We want to make this age, not just this name Kenny. So what you are going to do is this. You just come here and say age, that is, you know, age like this means age is age, right? Let's make it for now. Let's do it this way. This shift is not working well. So what you're saying is create a property called my age and let the value be this age. Then also, like I said, I'm not a fan of sending this directly, so instead I'll send this increase age. I'll just call it increment and let the value be increase age. Right. So in all of these components, you can make use of my age or increment. So in my display info, if I want to display this age, I will just come here and pull out my age. My age like this. So I don't need to send it as props. Also, I need this increment in my landing page so that when I click on this button, it can increase the value of age. Oops. Now we are not going to pass it down as props again. Instead, we do the same thing we did there. Const increment equals to use context. Okay, what's the name of the context we want to use? Age context. So we are pulling out increment out of it. Then we can put it here like this. save this also. So application now will work like before. So let's go to the landing page and click on this button. I am 15. Oh, my name is 15 anyway. 18. So even if the component is somewhere buried inside, right, all you need to do is to follow the same pattern. Create a variable, give it, pull out whatever you want to pull out, unique there, bring in your use context. Then the context you want to use, then you can use it. Do you understand? Any question? Now, to make our work a bit neater, well, to make things a bit neater, you may take this line and put it inside another file. Maybe you can put it inside another file. So let me create a context file somewhere here. Context.js. So I'll just cut this one out of this place. Because of course in your application you may still have many contexts. You have many contexts. Oh. No. Come on. Cut this. Okay. So we put the age context inside this file. We are exporting it out now. Then you can now import it here. Import age context from context. I think we don't need to change anything here. But we need to change one or two things. This is no longer inside app, so just move this line. From context, then we go to display info. This is no longer inside app. It's not inside context. So our application will still work like before. Oh, create context is not defined. Context.js. Okay, let's go to the context.js. Oh, it doesn't recognize this. So bring this in from React. Import. Create context. So I should go now. Yeah, so everything is working like before. So if you have a value in a component and it is inside a maybe a deep component, context API is an option. Question before we round off. Okay. In absence of question, let's talk about what you're going to learn in the next class. You can make use of this use context if you are building a small application. But in case you are working on a big application, the context API may not manage your state effectively. I mean global state. Context API is mainly used to manage global states. I mean those states that you need inside different components. So you can use context API to manage it just as we saw tonight. Right. But when your application is very big, context API may not be the best to manage it. Now, in that case, you make use of something we call Redux. So in our next class, we look at Redux. Redux, it does the same thing as our context API, but just that it manages states much better. Although it requires more codes than this, and you install some new libraries and all. But then, especially when you're building big applications, Redux helps you with the state management effectively. Any question before we go? In answers of question, thanks for coming.